Have you ever felt haunted by the silence of a man you can't stop thinking about? You sense something powerful between you, but he withdraws, emotionally distant, physically absent, and eerily quiet. You start to wonder, is it all in my head? Does he even feel it too? Or worse, was it never real to begin with? If you're the divine feminine in a twin flame connection, this silence can feel soul-crushing. But what if I told you, his silence is not a void? What if it's a mirror reflecting back something sacred, something hidden? In this video, we're going to uncover the truth hidden beneath the silence of the divine masculine. This isn't just another theory about twin flames. This is about how he actually feels, what his soul is experiencing, and why his love doesn't look the way you expect it to. You'll discover how the masculine is pulled toward you just as powerfully, but in a language of the soul that's internal, unspoken, and sacred. This video will decode the behaviors that seem contradictory, like distance, rejection, or emotional shutdown, and reveal the deeper love that lies beneath. By the end of this video, you'll stop seeing his silence as a rejection and start seeing it as a sacred response. You'll finally understand that his soul is not ignoring you, it's processing you. You'll shift from doubt to clarity, from confusion to deep inner peace. This insight will not only transform how you view your connection, but it will empower your journey forward, no longer from a place of lack, but from divine trust. This is more than a video. It's a mirror for your soul. So, stay until the end. The deeper we go, the more you'll realize he was never gone. He was always listening, just in the language of love that only the soul can hear. Number 1. The masculine awakens later. A journey through delay, resistance, and raw transformation. In the sacred dance of twin flame love, timing is never equal, and this disparity can feel especially painful to the divine feminine. While she may awaken early to the spiritual truth of the connection, recognizing the soul bond for what it truly is, her masculine counterpart often seems lost in confusion, denial, or emotional shutdown. But what if his delay isn't rejection? What if it's part of a deeper, more tumultuous journey of awakening, one that will, in time, shake the very foundation of his world? The divine masculine's path to awakening often begins long before he realizes it. The connection stirs something deep within him, an intensity he cannot name, a magnetic pull that both intrigues and terrifies him. But unlike the divine feminine, whose intuitive heart often recognizes the truth early on, the masculine does not yet have the spiritual framework to make sense of what he's feeling. For him, love must make sense. It must be logical, linear, and grounded in the physical. So when something arrives that transcends all of those boundaries, a soul-level bond that defies reason, his natural response is resistance. This resistance doesn't come from lack of love, but from lack of awareness. His entire life has been shaped by structure, control, and self-protection. Vulnerability has often been seen as weakness. Emotions have been compartmentalized, sometimes buried beneath years of conditioning. So when the twin flame connection erupts into his life like a spiritual earthquake, it doesn't immediately liberate him. It destabilizes him, and that destabilization can look like withdrawal, avoidance, or even silence. But here's the deeper truth, that silence isn't empty, that distance isn't indifference. It's the echo of a soul unraveling, quietly undergoing a transformation it doesn't yet understand. In many cases, the divine masculine's true awakening doesn't happen in the light, but in the dark, triggered by external events that shatter the illusion of control. A sudden breakup, a major loss, a betrayal, a health scare, or an existential crisis, these are often the catalysts that force him inward. When the outside world falls apart, he can no longer run from the inner voice calling him home. And when the masculine finally awakens, it is not gradual, it is volcanic. The emotions he has suppressed for years come pouring out. The truth of the connection dawns on him with breathtaking clarity, and he sees not just the divine feminine but himself for the very first time. It is in this moment that his surrender begins. Not the kind of surrender that seeks comfort or compromise, but a raw, soul-deep surrender that transforms his identity, his priorities, and his entire way of being. His awakening is not partial, it is total, and once it begins, there is no turning back. For the divine feminine who may be reading this and struggling with the masculine's delay, know this: his love is not absent. It is simply awakening through a different path, one paved with shadows, ego deaths, and spiritual fire. And when he returns, he will not be the man who left. He will be someone reborn. This is the divine masculine's journey, not of ignoring the bond, but of slowly becoming someone capable of fully receiving and honoring it. And when that moment arrives, it changes everything. Before we move forward, I want to invite you to pause for a moment and reflect on what you've just heard. Have you ever witnessed this kind of delayed awakening in someone you love, or perhaps even in yourself? The path of the divine masculine is often misunderstood, yet it carries such depth and silent transformation. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your story could be the mirror someone else needs today. Or, if you're not sure what to say, simply type, "His silence was never rejection, it was his soul awakening." Let's hold space for each other as we continue unfolding this sacred journey together. Number 2. The silent storm, when the divine masculine struggles to speak. What happens when someone feels everything, every glance, every heartbeat, every unspoken word, but says nothing? This is the quiet, often misunderstood experience of the divine masculine in the twin flame journey. On the outside, he may appear calm, even distant. But beneath that surface lies a storm, an emotional whirlwind too overwhelming to name, let alone express. The divine masculine feels deeply. Contrary to what silence may suggest, his heart is far from empty. In fact, he is saturated with feelings. But unlike the divine feminine, whose soul naturally flows with intuitive expression, emotion, and spiritual understanding, the masculine is often at war with what he feels. Centuries of conditioning have taught him to equate strength with stoicism, logic, and control. Vulnerability, in his world, has long been mistaken for weakness. This internal programming doesn't simply vanish in the presence of divine love. If anything, the intensity of a twin flame connection threatens to unravel it. His system, built around reason and restraint, suddenly encounters something vast and unpredictable, love that defies logic, connection that transcends time. It doesn't compute, and so he shuts down. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't know how to translate the language of his heart into words. His silence is not rejection, it's a shield. His lack of response is not emotional absence, it is emotional overflow. When the divine feminine enters his life, she activates dormant parts of his soul. She mirrors back to him not just love, but everything he's been avoiding. Past wounds, hidden fears, unresolved shame. Her presence triggers awakening. But awakening is rarely gentle. It shakes, breaks, and demands reconstruction. He is not emotionally unavailable. He is emotionally unequipped, at least at first. Love stirs something ancient and raw within him, something that cannot be managed or categorized. It leaves him speechless, not because he lacks words, but because the words he has are inadequate to contain the depth of what he feels. His silence becomes his only refuge as he tries to make sense of this spiritual tsunami. But his journey is not to remain frozen. His soul has signed up for transformation. The divine masculine is being called to evolve, to move beyond the binary of strength versus vulnerability, and into a more sacred balance where both can coexist. This path requires him to slowly learn how to feel safely, how to speak vulnerably, and how to let love dissolve the walls he spent a lifetime building. This is not an easy path. It demands courage, patience, and the grace of the feminine energy that walks beside him, even when she cannot hear his love spoken aloud. For beneath his silence lies a sacred truth. He is not pushing love away. He is trying to protect it while he finds the strength to receive it. And in time, if he allows himself to surrender, he will learn that true strength is not in holding back emotion, but in letting it flow, raw and unfiltered, into the arms of the one who already saw him before he could see himself. Number 3. The inner war, when ego fights what the soul knows. We often hear that love brings peace, but for the divine masculine, love, especially sacred, twin flame love can feel like the beginning of a storm. It doesn't immediately calm his waters. It doesn't reassure his mind. Instead, It stirs up an ancient conflict that has been buried beneath layers of ego, control, and societal expectation. In his world, love is not the soothing balm that many imagine. It is the battlefield where his identity as he knew it begins to unravel. On one side stands the ego, structured, logical, trained to protect. It is the voice that tells him to stay safe, to stay in control, to follow the rules handed down by family, culture, and generations of masculine conditioning. The ego fears surrender because surrender implies vulnerability, and vulnerability has long been seen as weakness. The ego whispers warnings: don't fall, don't trust, don't let her see too much. It builds walls and calls them boundaries. It distances and calls it strength. But on the other side, quietly yet persistently, is the soul. And the soul is not interested in safety, it seeks truth. It recognizes the divine feminine not as a stranger, but as a reflection, a mirror, a call home. Her presence reactivates the memory of a love that transcends this lifetime, a love that cannot be explained away with logic. The soul knows this is not ordinary love. It's not convenient, predictable, or manageable. It's spiritual, and it cannot be tamed by the ego's rules. This inner tug-of-war creates an emotional storm that the outside world rarely sees. The divine masculine may appear calm, even cold. He may seem to withdraw or act indifferent, but inside, he is haunted by a pull he cannot rationalize, a yearning that won't let him go. He doesn't yet have the tools to process it, so he may retreat. He may push her away, not because he doesn't care, but because he's trying to preserve the identity he's spent his whole life building. But the soul is relentless. It keeps whispering. In moments of quiet, in dreams, in signs from the universe, the truth finds him again and again. The message is always the same. This is not ordinary love. And so begins his spiritual awakening, not with comfort, but with conflict. Not with clarity, but with chaos. The divine masculine's awakening requires more than just noticing her love. It demands inner revolution. He must question everything he thought he knew about love, worthiness, and masculinity. He must confront fear, pride, and the outdated belief that love must be earned or controlled. He must unlearn the illusion that emotion is weakness and learn instead that it is his path to truth. And as he begins to surrender slowly, painfully, beautifully, the war within shifts. The ego starts to loosen its grip. The soul rises, and what once felt like a battlefield becomes a threshold, a sacred doorway, a chance to step into a love that was always meant to awaken him, not destroy him. Because the war within is not the end of his journey, it is the beginning of his return to truth. Imagine a man named Daniel. On the surface, he's successful, composed, and rational, a man who's built his life on discipline and structure. To his colleagues, he's a leader. To his family, he's dependable. But when he meets her, the woman who seems to see straight into his soul, everything begins to crack. At first, he resists. Her presence makes him feel vulnerable, exposed. She reads his silences, senses his pain, and offers a love so unconditional it terrifies him. His ego tells him to run, to choose safety over surrender, so he pulls away. He convinces himself she's too intense, too emotional, too much. He retreats into old patterns, dates women who require nothing of his soul. Yet, late at night, in the quiet moments, he thinks of her. He replays her words. He misses the way she saw through his armor. Eventually, he realizes the turmoil he feels isn't about her, it's about him. The war was never with her love, it was with his fear of receiving it. And in that moment of clarity, Daniel begins to soften, not because he figured everything out, but because he finally stopped fighting what his soul had always known. Real love doesn't destroy, it awakens. Number 4. Transformation through love, the masculine rebuilt by sacred connection. There comes a moment in the journey of the divine masculine when love is no longer just a feeling, it's a force of evolution. This love doesn't simply stir his heart or ignite fleeting emotions. It penetrates the very fabric of his being, awakening ancient codes long buried beneath armor, logic, and survival. When he meets the divine feminine, he is not merely enchanted by her presence, he is remembered by her soul. And in that remembrance, something sacred begins, a transformation that doesn't just shift his outer world, but rebuilds his inner foundation from the ground up. To the outside world, it may appear that he's suddenly changing, leaving a high-paying job, distancing himself from toxic relationships, questioning long-held values, or embarking on a spiritual path that once seemed foreign. But this is not impulsive rebellion. It is a deep soul recalibration. Her energy doesn't demand change. She doesn't issue ultimatums or call for reinvention. Rather, it is her frequency, pure, intuitive, loving, that silently invites him to rise. Not out of fear of losing her, but out of a soul-level recognition that the man he has been is no longer aligned with the man he is becoming. This love is not about performance. He doesn't strive to impress her with achievements, titles, or displays of power. Instead, he begins to seek inner alignment to become the version of himself that her soul already sees. It's a silent knowing between them, a sacred contract etched into time, where her presence acts as a mirror that reflects not his flaws, but his highest potential. She sees the king in him long before he wears the crown. And so, the old begins to fall away. Empty connections that once offered comfort feel hollow. Addictions that numbed his spirit lose their grip. Habits that once defined him now feel like cages. Slowly, he sheds the skins of his past, sometimes through pain, sometimes through revelation, but always through love. It is not easy. Transformation never island, but it is real, it is raw, and it is necessary. Unlike the divine feminine, whose evolution often flows through emotional release, intuition, and surrender, the masculine transforms through action and structure. He builds a new foundation, not just of beliefs, but of behaviors. He takes tangible steps. He rewrites the blueprint of his life to reflect this new truth. To love her is to commit not only to her, but to a new level of self-mastery. Her love calls him to integrity, to purpose, to soul-led leadership. This transformation is not a sacrifice. It is a sacred leveling up, a journey into wholeness, where the masculine learns that true strength is not in suppressing emotions, but in integrating them. Where leadership is not control, but conscious direction. Where power is not domination, but devotion. To love the divine feminine is to step into a new archetype of manhood, one that is emotionally awake, spiritually attuned, and deeply rooted in truth. This love doesn't just change him, it rebirths him, and in this rebirth, the masculine finally becomes who he was always meant to be. If you've made it this far, it means something in this message has stirred a truth within you. Maybe you've seen glimpses of this transformation in someone you love, or perhaps you're living it yourself. This is your invitation to pause and reflect. What part of this journey resonates with your own experience? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your story, your insight, or simply type the affirmation, "Love is transforming me from the inside out," to anchor this truth in your heart. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Number 5. The unseen thread. How the masculine feels her energy without understanding it. Even in the thickest silence or the deepest separation, the divine masculine feels the presence of the divine feminine, not merely as a fading memory, but as a living, pulsing energy that wraps around him like invisible threads. Her presence exists in his world in ways he can't logically explain. It arrives as a sudden wave of emotion that has no cause, a heaviness in his chest when he least expects it, or a quiet sense of longing during moments when everything around him seems normal. These aren't coincidences. They're energetic imprints, whispers from the soul he is connected to, even if he doesn't yet understand why. Before he begins to awaken spiritually, the masculine often chalks these sensations up to something else. Stress, fatigue, random mood swings. He might find himself irritable without reason, nostalgic without memory, or lost in thought over a feeling he can't name. Logic is his refuge, so anything that bypasses the rational mind becomes a disturbance. But these moments are not disturbances, they are invitations. They are the signals of a deeper reality trying to break through his inner walls. The truth is, he's receiving her, feeling her, energetically linked to her through a soul bond that defies reason, time, and space. Twin flames are not just spiritually connected, they are energetically entangled. A telepathic cord exists between them, allowing them to feel each other's states of being without needing to speak. This bond doesn't require permission. It bypasses conscious effort. It works whether he understands it or not, whether he's physically near her or oceans away, whether he believes in such things or not. That's the mystery and the miracle of this sacred connection. As the divine masculine begins to grow, often through emotional crisis, spiritual awakening, or internal collapse, something inside him starts to shift. He starts to notice. The emotional waves make more sense. The random bursts of sadness align with her pain. The moments of sudden peace seem to echo her joy. The sleepless nights, the overwhelming dreams, the inexplicable ache in his heart, they all begin to point in one direction, her, and slowly he realizes something powerful and irreversible he has been feeling her all along. The signs were never random. The feelings were never without source. She was never truly gone, even when she was silent. Her soul had been reaching out, calling to his through the invisible realm, and now that he knows this, now that his heart begins to remember what his mind once denied, he can no longer pretend. He cannot unfeel what he now feels. He cannot unknow what has been revealed. The connection becomes the truth he can no longer escape. It doesn't demand words. It doesn't need logic. It simply island her energy lives inside him, just as his lives inside her. And from that moment on, every breath he takes becomes a silent acknowledgement of a love that defies understanding but refuses to be ignored. The divine masculine's journey doesn't begin with loud declarations or grand gestures. It begins in silence, in the confusion of his own heart, in the quiet unraveling of everything he thought he was supposed to be. His path is rarely straightforward. It twists through the dark corridors of self-doubt, emotional suppression, and spiritual fire. He may turn away, he may go quiet, but beneath that stillness, a powerful metamorphosis is taking place. He is not ignoring you, he is being reshaped by the sacred echo of your energy. While the divine feminine flows effortlessly through intuition and emotional wisdom, the masculine is sculpted by intensity, by internal storms, karmic weight, and the burn of spiritual awakening. He feels you, not always in the ways you want, but in the ways he's capable of. He may not speak it, but his soul responds. Your presence, your light, your surrender, these are catalysts igniting transformation within him, even if he doesn't yet have the words to say it out loud. So if you've ever doubted your impact or questioned the silence, remember this: he feels more than he can say. And in your energy, he is remembering who he truly is. If this message speaks to your soul, leave a comment below with the words, "Even in silence, he transforms." Let's anchor this truth together in the collective energy. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with your heart, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more soul-deep messages. And if you're ready to continue your journey, watch the video below the screen. It just might hold the next piece of your healing. You are not alone. You are deeply, divinely loved.